to start. Right, there we go. Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Folkestone and Hythe District and Parish Council's Joint Committee. Please note this meeting is being streamed live to the internet. Please could all members ensure their microphone is set to mute unless they are speaking to reduce any background noise. So we'll move on to the first item, which is appointment of chair. As members are aware, the chair alternates between the parish and district. For the purpose of this meeting, members must appoint a district chair. So do we have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Philip Blakemore for chairman.
Very happy to second.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll hand over to, if you can just show your hands for me, apologies. Yeah, okay. I'll hand over to yourself, Councillor Blakemore.
Right, thanks very much. Good evening, everybody. Very, very chilly evening out there. I just dashed back from Cheriton and it's blinking cold. Do we have any apologies for absence?
We have one from Councillor Darling.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next item is declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? Very good. The minutes of the last meeting, is everyone happy to accept those as an accurate record of our last meeting?
Agreed.
Agreed. Excellent. Thank you very much. So we're on to our substantive item of the evening, which is an update from Councillor Martin, leader of the District Council. Jim. You're muted, Jim, at the moment, if you are speaking.
I'm not doing terribly well on the IT this evening. I'm sorry about that. I'm not quite sure why my camera isn't working. It should be, but it's definitely on. So anyway, whatever, I'll get on with it. I think I'm very, very happy to answer any questions about anything this evening. So don't feel restricted by the three items on the list. The just really to sort of get it out of the way. I'm continuing to meet with Southern Water. There are a multitude of issues, but the three principal ones are the flooding at Ouden Road in Dymchurch, the failure of the Range Road pumps in Hythe, and the failure or the overwhelming of the pumps at the Derrings in Lydd. These are ongoing issues, so I'm meeting with Tony Hills from KCC and myself are meeting with regard to those three. I'm meeting separately with Southern Water regarding the quality of the bathing water in Hythe Bay, which is getting worse. So we've got a no bathe at St Mary's Bay. We've got a poor quality at Dymchurch. We've got poor quality at Littlestone, and I think it's adequate at Greater Stone. It's all really, really, really awful. the trend is that they're getting worse. We still have two measuring stations that are showing excellent. That's Folkestone and Hythe. But you know, when the Range Road pumps packed up in Hythe, the quality of the bathing water went south very, 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 very quickly. I know that Councillor Prater, in his role as Sandgate Parish Council, don't believe the Environment Agency readings and are doing their own. It really is a desperate situation. So I'm meeting separately with regard to that and listening to Southern Water telling me all about their investment plans, etc., etc. Then on Southern, it's a meeting that I've got tomorrow. Along with, I think it's 37 other district councils in the south of England. We've been organised by the Environment Agency, and we're sort of coordinated by, it's either Wealdon or High Weald District Council, one of the Sussex councils. And we are campaigning and lobbying Ofwat to take legal action against Southern Water for their persistent failure to meet their measurements, their requirements, customer needs, you know, more or less everything. They fail on everything. I mean, you know, you couldn't make it up. So that's Southern Water. They've, you know, as is often the way, they've appointed a very charming young man who comes to see me and tells me stuff, and then when I ask him a question, he doesn't know. You know, so it's hugely frustrating, and it's one of the things, funnily enough, when I attend the Kent Leaders meeting, it's the East Kent Leaders meeting, it's one of the things that unites us all. Dover, you know, Canterbury, Thanet, Swale, we've all got monster issues with Southern Water. So that's Southern Water. Happy to take any questions.
If I may.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if I may, Jim, Paul Thomas here. So they've actually been fitting do not swim signs up at Littlestone today.
Yeah.
The Environment Agency.
Yeah.
So they've already notified on the Southern Water side that the bathing water quality, as you correctly identified, has gone from good to poor. But they've now gone the next step of putting no swim notices up, Jim.
Yeah. And you know, I would love to be able to say, oh, this is just a temporary thing, and you know, all this, you know, rubbish we've been hearing about some illegal connection that's causing all of these irregular readings at St Mary's Bay. We've been listening to this for the past couple of years, that, you know, and it's a load of old tosh, you know, because everything around, you know, do you know what I mean? It's just tosh. I'm really fed up with them. They're awful. So I'm sorry, I can't give you any good news about Southern Water. I can't give you light at the end of the tunnel. They tell me they're investing millions of pounds, but I haven't seen it. So at the moment, I can tell you they're spending a shed load of money pumping sewerage into tankers and carting it away. I'm not quite sure where they're taking it, but do you know what I mean? It's just flipping useless. Anyway, so sorry, that's Southern. Oh, sorry, Anne. Oh, sorry, I just saw your hand. I think you're on mute, Anne.
Yes, I've not attended many of these meetings, so topics. So if I'm out of order or saying anything wrong,
no problem.
Do stop me. First of all, about the Southern Water and Princess Parade, I wondered if they could spend a few million, and their shareholders might agree with this, building a Lido so that those of us who swim in Hythe could tick a couple of boxes, and they could build a Lido that filtered the water so that we weren't swimming in effluent anymore. And that might be a kind of short-term solution and a gesture of goodwill, that they're really serious about the sport of sea swimming, which I see swim currently. I see in the summer and the winter. And a lot of us have been speaking about Brighton has got a beach swimming pool. And so I wondered if that idea would, even if I'm allowed to raise that idea here. So that was the first thing.
Well,
So,
and can I just answer that? I will be very, very, if you'd care to drop that in an email to me, I would be very, very, very happy to put that under Southern Water's nose and ask for their comments. It will probably cost them a bit more than £2 million, but I'm very, very happy to put that forward.
Yeah, and that would be a short-term solution for those of us who are swimming but having to hold our head, ears, and above water. People who've currently got grazes or any cuts can't swim in the sea. It's too dangerous. So that's that. The other issue was about the environment, and you'll know, as a parish councillor, I've got Jeremy and John Wing who come to our meeting from the district council. Great district councillors, but there's a whole issue, and it will be the Environment Agency that covers Dover and us and Canterbury. And I understood you said you had a meeting with them. And that's around the issue of human waste that's thrown from lorries. So we have a lot of pee bottles and bags with poo in, basically, that humans are throwing in and around our village. And we're not unique to that. It's where Stop 24 is. It's where the tunnel is. It's throughout Dover. So it's a Kent-wide issue. I really have no idea if it goes further than Kent. And it's about time constraints. It's about many issues. And I wrote to the Director of Public Health and said, could he call a summit, because it's a public health hazard. And he suggested that it's the Environment Agency that we need to contact, and that some money had been allocated for the highways to address many issues. But one of them is obviously Operation Brock and all the kind of, which in October is going to get a lot worse because of the passport checks. And if that gets worse, it means that the human disposal in our area, our lovely village, will get worse. So I was wondering if it's possible to ask the Environment Agency to call a summit, and I can forward, and Jeremy can forward you the letters that suggest right through from the docks, the port authority, trade unions, the highways agency, the police, because it's illegal to actually do this while you're driving. Apparently it's not when you're not. But so just wanted to raise that while you're speaking to the Environment Agency, would it be a good idea to see if there's any appetite on their behalf to start addressing this issue as well? It all comes under the umbrella of the Environment Agency and human waste in some form or other. We seem to be getting a little bit buried by it here in Kent.
Yeah. And again, if you could drop me that in an email, that'd be very helpful. Now, the Environment Agency, I don't want to predict anything, but they'll do naff all with regard to this. I can tell you who will is Ashford, our neighbours to the northwest. Ashford have built Sevington, which is about the largest flipping lorry park you could ever imagine, and nobody parks in it. Yeah. They all drive down to the next junction and they park up, at Limminge, or they park, it's just nuts. And Ashford and it's the Department of Transport and the Highways Agency. They want more enforcement to get the lorry drivers into Sevington. That's what Sevington was built for. When it comes. Now, Ashford feel that when the passport control issues come in, the only if they're going to Dover, because Dover have got no facilities to do it, there is some kind of clever technological thing they can do, but they'll only be able to do it in Sevington. So what they're hoping is that, I know why they don't go into Sevington, because they have to pay, but that's so right to me. But I think rather than the Environment Agency, it's really about getting the lorries out of those lay-bys, getting the lorries off of those lanes. And Ashford have got a solution for it. It's just we need the Highways Agency and the Department of Transport to, force the lorry drivers to park in Sevington rather than around your village.
Yeah, and we've got volunteers clearing it up without protective clothing, by the way, because it's the only way. We wait a year for the district council or someone to do something, and then after a year, the volunteers and everybody can't stand it any longer. So we've got volunteers without protective clothing doing it. So it is also a health issue.
Well, we can certainly help you out with the protective clothing on the litter pick. I think it's because it's a highways issue. It would be Kent County Council, but if you need protective clothing, again, drop me an email and I'll see what I can do to sort some stuff out for you.
Okay. Councillor Thomas has had his hand up for a little while.
Yeah, thank you very much. Two things really. The first, just to answer the question about where are these sewage lorries going? I can tell you, Jim, they're going to a sewage outlet at the end of Church Lane in New Romney, and they're also going to New Romney Sewage Works. You go there any day of the week, and there are lorries queued up all the way down the road there. So New Romney is becoming the dumping ground for the sewage from the rest of East Kent, and that's a fact. Secondly, and just to reinforce what Anne was saying, Litter Pick Watch Romney Marsh have for a long time now been collecting urine and feces from the side of the road. They call it driver's Lucasade. It's not funny. It isn't just trucks. It's van delivery drivers and anyone who stops and decides that they want to relieve themselves, or as they go along the road as well. It's a county-wide, it's a nationwide issue, and needs to be brought to that level. So I really would reinforce what Anne is saying in terms of the prevalence of this disgusting act, and it is unfortunately the likes of the volunteer litter pickers who are having to deal with all of this as well. But you're right. I mean, it does need dealing with, and I think Anne's really good to raise the point there and say this needs sorting out at a national level, not just at the Kent level. Thank you very much for that, Jim.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Paul. Frank Hobbs, you had your hand up, and then Tim. You're muted.
Yes, all right. Just got on muted. Regarding the lorry parking bit, the Folkestone and Hythe Council used to go along and slap parking fines on the lorries. Because all the lay-bys have got no parking overnight, no overnight parking on signs all over them, and they were going around slapping the fines on them. And at one stage they were clamping them as well, but I think that was deemed they weren't allowed to do that or something. But they seem to have stopped now, because now you could drive home from Folkestone to here, for instance, every lay-by on the A20 has got lorries in it. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, Frank. Believe me, if we can put parking tickets on anybody, we will. So I'll have to investigate why, but we don't. But if we could, we would. So I'll find out for you why that doesn't happen.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Councillor Prater.
Thanks, Mike. Just a couple of things. Firstly, to say, as Jim said, Sandgate Parish Council were doing some seawater testing, effectively to check the Environment Agency's homework. And on the back of that, despite the fact that Sandgate Beach has had the only seaside award in Folkestone and Hythe for the last 10 years, we will not be having one this year. We're not in place there, but we're confident that we can apply for it on the basis that, although the water quality is often excellent, it is not always excellent. And on one occasion, to be honest, after the Hythe outfall incident, it was terrible, to the extent that we should probably put had hazard flags out for people not to swim in it. So as we haven't got the confidence in the water quality, particularly after heavy rainfall, and that we do not think that we can reasonably apply for a seaside award which includes water quality as one of those criteria for this year. And we will be making that public and going to the Environment Agency and Southern Water with why we won't be applying this year over the course of the next couple of weeks. So I just thought it would be helpful to know that, and it might be that we can tie in some district comms into that. As I said, we've held it for about 10 years.
Yeah.
My second point is I have to offer my apologies because I'm about to have to hit the road to go to my 6:30 meeting in Oaklands in Hythe. So thank you for this meeting, but I will see you soon.
Yeah,
Thanks,
see you,
Tim.
Tim.
I can't see any other hands at the moment, so can I suggest Jim continues with his next item?
Yep, for sure. So my next my next bugbear is a Stagecoach, and I have had a long series of discussions with Stagecoach. Now the problem is that Stagecoach's contract to run the bus service is based on any profitable bus route that they run, they keep all the money. If they run a bus route that isn't profitable, then they can apply for subsidy. Now, during the pandemic, obviously, the people using the buses dropped considerably. But since the pandemic, the number of students travelling has gone back to pre-pandemic levels, as has the number of fare-paying passengers. What hasn't returned is the concession card holders, the more elderly people that would generally use the buses during the day, and they're still 25% down on pre-pandemic levels. So this has given Stagecoach a problem in the majority of their rural services not only continue to lose money, but lose more money than they were losing. So Stagecoach applied for increased subsidy for the rural routes, and given the state of Kent County Council's finances, were very disappointed not to get the money that they asked for. So they set about a set of cost savings, which included closing the bus garage at Cheriton Road, in Cheriton, and moving the bus services mainly to Dover, but some to Ashford, and that's where they run it from now. Now this was really, really badly done in my view, because they told me during the summer that this was going to happen, but they were expecting 15% of the drivers to opt for voluntary redundancy. They all had to be offered voluntary redundancy. In fact, about 85% of the drivers opted for voluntary redundancy. So they had kind of overnight, they had this massive driver shortage. And of course, this coincided in terms of timing with the second week in September, when all of the schools opened up. So we had this terrible problem of children on their first day at school being left, at bus stops waiting for a bus that just never showed up. And it was murder. So anyway, I agreed with Joel Mitchell, the managing director so that every email I get, I forward to him with my comments, and so he tries to do it. So I'd love to say we've been working and trying to all we've got is the number 10 reinstated to Lim. That's it. That's the only thing that we've managed to do. We've talked it up, we've talked it down. So then I went to KCC and said, look, you've got to increase your subsidies, because we've got particularly late and early services just aren't running on routes. There's a terrible problem of people who work at the William Harvey can't come home without getting a cab or joining the carpool or just really stupid stuff. So anyway, KCC are completely stuffed. They've got absolutely no money, and so there's no increase in the subsidies. So we are where we are. I can't promise you any substantial difference, but I will say one thing, and only one thing, in Stagecoach's favour. They've taken it on the chin. They unlike Southern Water, who either don't know, or I have to talk to somebody else, or they give me an excuse. Southern Water kind of Stagecoach kind of take it on the chin, and they say it's down to us, but I can't do anything for you. I don't know whether, but it kind of makes it easier for me that they're actually. I'm talking to people who are taking responsibility for the pain and suffering they're causing, whereas at Southern Water, nobody seems to want to take responsibility for anything. So, yeah, again, I can't give you any light at the end of the tunnel with regard to Stagecoach. Any issues you've got with Stagecoach, any bus service issues, email me, and I will forward them all on to Joel Mitchell, the managing director. And up to now, he's been responding to all of the queries that I send him.
So Jim, I was going to add, I went to the meeting that our Labour colleagues in Folkestone Central Ward organised yesterday that Joel Mitchell attended. And good for him for doing it, because he was, into the Lion's Den and all of that. And kind of the message from him there was that he does want to build back from where they've got, and where they can, by adding services at the beginning and the end of the day, because of the problems you've described, Jim, with people. There's the number 17 where it no longer people can no longer use it effectively because they'd have to leave in the middle of the afternoon to get home. Councillor Speakman raised the issue with the number 10 where it's missing out Lim at exactly the time where it needs to be picking up boys to take them to the Harvey, and he's going to look at that. He promised to look at a lot of things, and what will come out of it, who knows. But there was a lot of kind of and it was obviously very Folkestone orientated because the meeting was in the Vale, but there was a lot of very granular information coming out of the people who attended that meeting. And it sort of came out that I found quite interesting, that what we've got really is a network, a bus network in the district that is based on something from years ago, really. It's not based on the current situation. And obviously a lot of houses have been built in different parts of the district. And the modelling is done by, it seems, by somebody looking at a computer in Canterbury who's maybe never visited some of the places that they're working out bus routes for. So there seemed to be quite an appetite for kind of looking at that and trying to approach things in a different way. And it's quite an exciting prospect if they're really committed to doing that. But certainly in the short term, he's kind of seeing where we've got to a low point, and they're keen to build back and try and kind of add some services, especially at the beginning and the end of the day, possibly joining up some services at the moment. And he was full of praise for you, Jim. He said you were a good man. You didn't pull your punches, but you were very, very respectful of your position and the fact that you've been so forthright with him.
Yeah, he invited me to try to frighten me off by inviting me to meet the drivers who had transferred from Cheriton to Dover. He said, but you'll have to come at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I said, fine. So we had a meeting at 6 o'clock in the morning in Dover at the Dover bus garage. And I mean, they really responded to it. And I didn't pull my punches. I told them the grief I think while Joel Mitchell is there, I think we've got a chance because he feels the pain. He's not fobbing me off. He's kind of taking it on the chin. So we'll just have to wait and see. But just to tell you, I went to the Kent Leaders thing at the beginning of the week, and all of us, see the strategic importance of buses. In terms of you were talking, Mike, about the granular impact in terms of, the high speed is great, lovely, and, all of that. But in terms of moving around this district, it's all about buses, and it's the same in Dover, it's the same in Canterbury, it's the same in Ashford. It's essential that we have good bus services. Everyone agrees. All we've got to do is get them in place.
So Anne Beale's got a hand up, and then Paul Thomas, please.
Hi. Yeah, to say we benefited from the reinstatement of the number 10 bus at Lymm, and Jeremy obviously was saying that them early enough for school students to get on, and we're unique in that all they've got to do is divert.
Yeah, it's missing out the village, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's a cost business case for that. So I think that's why we've been successful. But I would say the way that you organise when you need to look at the timetables, rather than the computer in central Canterbury by somebody who's probably never lived in Kent before but got a job there. I don't understand why Stagecoach don't take an initiative around consultations with local people, because there's 2 or 3 buses we know you could cut.
Yeah. I think they're open to that, to be honest, because they've sort of suggested, or could we have a user group or something like that? And they seem to be open to that. Yeah.
So when might we be able to sort of put candidates forward who've got that insider trading knowledge?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll wait to see on that.
But in the meantime, and any ideas you've got, send them to me, and I will send them all to Joel Mitchell.
Yeah, he's definitely seemed receptive to that, and it's in their interests, because a lot of what was coming out in the meeting yesterday was you could just do this, or you could make this tweak, or you could, take that service up a bit further, and it's in their interest to do that, isn't it? To listen to people who, as you say, are on the ground and understand it best. There's some very imaginative ideas as well about, Folkestone Loop and things like that, a shuttle bus connecting up Folkestone Central with the town and the beach, all of that kind of stuff, which it's not really rocket science, is it?
Yeah, and input from Tesco's and kind of Aldi's and maybe some sort of payment made from them. Anyway, I'll think about it and write to Jim, should I?
Yeah, please.
And Jeremy know, yeah. Thank you.
Paul.
Thanks, Mike. Again, I'd like to thank Jim for the work that he's been doing on this. And again, there is a Stagecoach users group kicking around on Facebook, and they're very active in terms of making people aware of where the service shortfalls are. But again, just going back to, you look at communities, Lydd-on-Sea and Dungeness have been abandoned after 6 o'clock at night. And it's just shocking. It really is. And they used to have a really good service there. They made some service diversions for some strange reason, which nobody seems to be able to understand, to go and take the buses along the Lydd straight into Lydd, which has 5 houses on it, rather than take it along the seafront through Lydd-on-Sea and Dungeness, which is, densely populated in comparison with that. So again, as Anne was saying, really, it's trying to understand why the service routes are set out the way that they are, and particular timings of them, because we are trying to encourage people to use the buses. We are trying to encourage people to think greener and doing all the things they need to do to cut down emissions and everything else that we've already spoken about in the past. So again, I think the more we can do to try and understand and influence the decisions about buses, so communities such as Lydd-on-Sea and Dungeness are not abandoned after 6 o'clock at night. Thanks very much for that.
Yeah.
Frank.
Thank you, Mike. Some reason I can't put up my yellow hand. I can't find it on the screen tonight. But something Jim said early on in his thing about Stagecoach, he said, if the route is profitable, Stagecoach keep the money. But if it's not, they can apply for subsidy. Can't they subsidise some of them themselves out of their profits?
Well, I mean, believe me, I have asked them not, to stop paying their shareholders, and but that's the way the system works. Their contract to run buses in Kent is based on them keeping all of the profits on the profitable routes and asking for subsidy on the unprofitable routes. There is they don't transfer one. Do you know what I mean? There's no like break-even point between the two. They keep all the profit on the profitable routes, and they ask for subsidy on the unprofitable routes. I don't know why it works. That's the way that it works. That's their deal with KCC.
Right. Thank you.
Joel
Seems
did
wrong,
say
but
yes.
there you go.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I talked over you.
I was just saying, it seems wrong, but there you go.
Yeah.
Joel was saying they are quite happy to run a route at break even if it's not making a profit. They're quite happy to run it. He also mentioned, quite interesting about the number of people who have bus passes, whatever you call them now, that they get. I think they get about £1 every time somebody swipes their card, but the journey actually costs more than £1, so they're losing money every time somebody, because it costs like £1.50 or something is the equivalent.
Can I, sorry, Mike, just before
yeah.
you keep coming, so we had visitors over the weekend, and on Sunday afternoon, it was about 3 o'clock, and we were walking along the sea wall, Paul, between the fabulous New Romney and Dymchurch, and I was ranting away about buses and bus services and blah 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 blah. When the 102 came past, it must have been about 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, and the guy, visitor, who we were walking his dog, and he said to me, "Well, look, there's nobody on that bus." And literally, there was nobody on. This was the bus to Lyd. There wasn't a soul on the bus, and that's the problem that Stagecoach have got.
I'll go to Roger next, so that's all right, just because he hasn't spoken yet, and then to you, Anne, if that's okay.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, firstly, apologise for joining the meeting a bit late. I was stuck at a DAC meeting in Rochester, just got home. So I hope I didn't miss anything earlier on. But you mentioned the empty 102, Jim, and there must be a balance between the volume of travellers on the bus and the profitability, even if the oldies like us use our old age pensioners card. Surely, if they get £1 for it, the more of us that use it, the more pounds they get.
Yeah.
But I wonder whether in the meetings you've been having, Jim, whether the public are aware of the fare cap that's been extended now. Does anybody? Everybody knows, don't they? One-way journey on Stagecoach costs you no more than
£2.
£2. Do people know that? Because I think if people, for instance, if we wanted to go to Canterbury, we might be put off thinking, oh, it's going to cost us £4 or £5 to get to Canterbury. But if we knew for certain it was only £2, one direction, we would use the bus. Well, we do, but a lot more people would use the bus, I suspect. Just a thought. I don't know whether that's been mentioned, and whether, even though the £2 cap probably is not profitable for them, it does mean more bums on seats. There's a very delicate balance between numbers of travellers and the amount of money that Stagecoach get.
Yeah, Roger. Part of the deal when Joel Mitchell and I kiss and make up eventually, I have committed to the district council running a use it or lose it campaign around the buses, because really the future of buses is in our own hands.
Absolutely.
And Roger, you're bang on right. If you've taken your car to, I took my car for an event to Canterbury. It cost me £6.80 to park the flipping car. Do you know what I mean? It would have cost me a fraction of that to go to Canterbury and come back. It would have only cost me £4. Yeah, and I wouldn't have had to drive it round and round like a nutcase trying to find somewhere to park. Absolutely. And then pay £6.80 for the privilege.
And the cricket, of course,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, the cricket is one of them, isn't it? We go to cricket, and we go. Well, we use our cards, of course, but the number of people who go to cricket who might go by car, So yeah, you're right. I love the idea of a use it or lose it, Jim. It's it's a popular old thing anyway for lots of things, isn't it? So let's go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Back to Anne.
Yes, just a couple of things. I mean, empty buses, that's why you need local intelligence, and the user group should perhaps be beefed up. And as a parish council, I'd be quite happy to nominate people to go on a user group that literally looked at efficaciousness of the routes or efficiency. But the other thing is that the Kent County Council, in my view, should never get away scot-free with this, and so they haven't got any money. They need to look at what money and where they spend it. So we were going to have a massive campaign to get all people with disabilities and older people who have mobility problems to use Dial-A-Ride. It's called Kent Carrier, I believe, here. Now, if you look at what it would have cost Kent Carrier to have come and got the people in our village to go to Sainsbury's or to go to the town centre and then back again, so very restricted kind of service and very timed, I think it would have broke their bank. So I think they need to look at if people en masse start to use Dial-A-Ride, they're not going to go back to using ordinary bus. Wonder, looking at this concession, I'm assuming that means people who would have a concession that could also, and it's decreased 25%. Maybe are they using Dial-A-Ride or Kent Carrier? I think there might be some mileage. If you excuse the expression, looking at the funding of the Dial-A-Ride or Kent Carrier, and then the lack of take up of buses, and if we overload the Kent Carrier, and it's got a legal under the Disability Discrimination Act to provide that service, there might be some mileage in looking at that costings.
Okay, I'm happy to look at anything, and but I'll completely agree. Kent County Council shouldn't be left off the hook on this. But so.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, again, Jim, and just picking up on Anne's point, you know that down here on Romney Marsh, we're looking at the feasibility of Dial-A-Ride and also Flexibus as well. And Tony Hills has been very supportive of our aims to try and do something like that. With Flexibus, the aim was to complement the service provided by Stagecoach, because currently you can't get a direct bus from the Marsh to the William Harvey Hospital, for example. And you can't even get it into certain parts of Ashford. So again, it was about making sure that people understood that, the need was there, but also part of that scheme, and this is something we're doing through the integrated neighbourhood care team with the NHS, is to make sure that the NHS know that if people have if people have appointments at the William Harvey Hospital and they come from Romney Marsh, there's no point putting them at 9 o'clock in the morning because they won't be able to get there, but also tying up the availability of transport services with the available appointments at the hospital to make sure that they complement each other and therefore don't result in people having to miss appointments or not get there because they don't, because there is no bus service that will get you there directly. You have to get 3 buses from Romney Marsh to get to the William Harvey Hospital. But again, just picking up Anne's point about Dial-A-Ride, it is something we're examining at the moment, Anne, down here. And that specifically is to do with getting people round who have limited mobility, have no access to a car, and it's looking at what we can do to offer them the chance of improving their life somewhat by giving them the options of moving around. The other point with that, of course, is the fact that Stagecoach wouldn't want you to be operating services which are in direct competition to what they are, and they're very mindful of that. I think there was a figure of something like £168,000 a year to run the service, Jim, if I remember correctly. It's of that order for running something like the 102 service. So yeah, just we are looking at Romney Marsh at those 2 schemes that you suggested, Anne.
Okay, thanks. I don't see any other hands on this one, So I think there was one more thing, Casey Whip, you were going to update us on, Jim.
Oh yeah. Now, so this is the. Let me just get. I've got a sheet for this. So this is the consultation on Kent cycling and walking infrastructure plan. So there was a consultation which closed on the 10th of January, and the KCC have set out some improved routes which pass through the Folkestone Hythe district. Route R4 from Canterbury running south to Folkestone town centre and into the harbour. Route R13 running along the coast between Folkestone Harbour and Hythe, and Route R8 running from Hythe northwest to Ashford. We've gone back and put in our comments. We're very conscious that there are a number of other cycle routes, the Cinque Ports cycle routes. Also, there are the National Cycle Highway routes that we've got a principal route that runs through the district, National Cycle Route 2. So our comments were largely fairly technical around those, but I'm very happy to answer any questions. As long as they're not too technical about it. I know how to ride a bike, but that's about it.
Any questions, anyone? On that or anything else?
Well, I'm very happy to give you an update on Otterpool if you're interested. I know Frank has got a special interest in Otterpool, but I'm sure Anne may be, and Roger certainly. So Frank will recall that when the last time I went to talk to the 5 parishes, I was talking about a strategic partner that we were in talks with that I couldn't reveal who they were, and just before Christmas, literally on Christmas Eve, they came back to us and with a no thank you. They're not going forward. Now that strategic partner was the Crown Estates. So we were very, very, very excited about the Crown Estates taking an interest in Otterpool for a whole plethora of reasons. But essentially, the financial modelling wasn't what they were hoping for. So they'd done their due diligence. They liked the scheme. They liked the emphasis on a very green environment, connected environment. They were very, very very on board with the Otterpool Charter. In fact, if anything, they wanted more. So we had a couple of really interesting meetings in the Crown Estates offices in Lower Regent Street, but sadly hasn't come from anything. However, the word is out, and I have got a queue of other strategic partners knocking on the door, wanting to come in and see how they can help us. On top of that, our love affair with Homes England has been rekindled, and I won't say that we're about to publish bans, but we're certainly looking at rings. So I'm if you were to ask me, I am a lot more optimistic about Otterpool proceeding in a reasonable time frame now than I was 3 months ago. I thought, I'd never had any doubt that Otterpool would happen, but I just thought that until we get all of this money sorted out, we're really going to struggle to build anything. Now I'm a lot more optimistic about it. Shame about the Crown Estates, but There you go. Yeah, they're going to look at it again. They want to look at it again in end of April. So they want us to. We've got some work to do on the financial modelling, and they want to look at it again. But they've got a big commitment at Hemel Hempstead. So what their investment committee actually said to them was, do what you've got to do at Hemel Hempstead, and then we can talk about Otterpool. So yeah. So yeah, that's really the update on Otterpool.
Jim, Paul's got his hand up, and then Roger.
Yeah,
and then Frank.
Thanks.
Right, and then
I didn't know if you wanted to mention, Jim. Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to mention the consultation that's out there on the change to the Constitution, Jim.
oh yeah. Different topic, but if you've been following the council business closely, you'll know that we decided to change from a cabinet system to a committee system, and the consultation on that is currently open. So if you go on the website, you can put your comments with regard to that. Should we say at the moment the number of consultees hasn't broken the internet, so any comments will be warmly welcomed.
Okay. Roger.
Yeah, going back to Otterpool, Jim, I just wonder if it looks as though the light is getting a bit more amberish towards green, whether we could look at the forward green infrastructure and tree planting, because that takes a bit of time to establish, and we could engender quite a lot of excitement, particularly with school kids and things like that. Getting that going, is there any chance of that?
There is every chance, Roger. I'll be able to answer that a little more affirmatively in a few weeks' time. The big money issue, Roger, you know, and Frank knows, is the wastewater treatment plant. You know, and as of yesterday, we were in a meeting where suddenly, it appeared that we could do it. So everything follows from that. If we can't do that, then we can't do anything. Once that gets nailed down, I'm not saying build it, I'm just saying confirm it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once that gets nailed on, then everything else flows from a wastewater treatment.
As it were.
Right.
That's great. Thanks, Jim.
Okay. I think Frank was beforehand. Forgive me if I got that wrong, but let's go to Frank next.
The crucial thing on the sewage plant, etc., whatever it is the fact that it's got to avoid putting anything at all into the Stour that's got anything in it, isn't it? Because there's already problems with the Stour further up the line. The other thing I would say, we have now set up a meeting with the new man. We're meeting on the 1st of February with the 5 parishes. We've confirmed that, and I've had confirmation back from the other 4 to say that they're all willing to attend. And we hope to strike up a good relationship with him as we had with Andy Jarrett.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure if you've never met him before, he's very different from Andy Jarrett, Frank, but he knows his construction inside out. You know, he really does know his stuff. Yeah, you're absolutely right about there's a discussion that we are having in terms of the health of Stour Marsh. That we, the wastewater treatment at Otterpool is seen as like a fundamental building block in terms of what goes into the River Stour and into the marsh, and so we have regular discussions with Ashford and Canterbury because they will both be their positions will both be improved. Because of the wastewater treatment at Otterpool, it has that big an impact on the Stour Marsh.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Anne.
Yeah, there's some system stuff really. I went to a meeting recently with an organisation called Pace, which you'll know about, but I'm new. And it strikes me that with a bit of jiggling, it might be worth just flagging up that the local parish councils, once the housing needs analysis has been done, maybe there's some sort of wiggle room to let us have nomination rights to affordable housing. So I think we might be entitled in Lynn to something like 8. And also one of those might be set aside for agricultural workers. So I think it's just worth flagging up if someone hasn't thought about it. And I know nothing about what I'm talking of. So if no one else has thought about it, could somebody at least think about that? Because, we've got older people who don't want to leave the village, but where do they go? Because our village is affluent and the housing's very expensive. Or you've got younger people who can't afford to stay in the local area and are not going to be high earners. It would be good to have some housing that the local parish councils can nominate people to at affordable rents, which is 50 to 80% of the current market. So that was one thing about affordable housing. And the other thing is we're doing some work as a parish with our primary care network. And in those discussions, I've noted, because my background's health, I noted that the local primary care network, Folkestone Hythe, and rural network, is very keen to have a diagnostic centre built as part of the estate, as part of their Otterpool kind of, their view of Otterpool. And we all know about shortages in health and all the rest of it. But for some reason, there doesn't seem to be any joined up thinking from health estates and Otterpool. And that non-joined up thinking is partly because apparently health doesn't feel it's able to talk about their estates around this new development. So the GPs are very clear they want a diagnostic centre. There's very little point in putting a GP surgery there if there's no GPs. So it's extending the use of leading practice. So just again to flag up that my very simple, tiny view of linking up with health needs improving.
Just to come back on that, and you're absolutely correct. And if you go around to, the failure of this linking up, as you called it, is so apparent in Tonbridge and Malin. The leader there was telling me they had it all went completely wrong for them. And the health centre that they built on one of their developments is now a kebab shop. It just is just ridiculous, and it is all not the GPs, there are 3 elements in it. There are the practitioners, if you like. There are the suppliers of the equipment and all of that sort of stuff, and then there are the buildings, the estates people, and all of the problems surround the NHS estates people. Michael and Paul know the problems we've had in Folkestone on Folker, all caused exactly by those people. They won't engage. They want to pull out every 10 minutes. It's almost impossible to do anything with them. But so you're absolutely right to flag it up. I haven't got a solution for it, but it is a problem.
So if there's anything I can do to help give background, and having worked with estates as a non-exec director, perhaps if there's anything you think I could do, or any individuals that I could have a chat with, a conversation.
Well, your help would be hugely appreciated at Folker. Actually, I came off a call at 5:30 today with Ewan Green, our director, wringing his hand, saying, "What more can I do to get these flipping people to engage with us?" So.
There is a tactic that I can think of immediately, which is to get the local practitioners to make commitments, and the estates will go hysterical. But anyway, perhaps I can work on that and come up with a suggestion.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, all hands to the pump as far as I'm concerned, Anne.
Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Just one final thing. I realised we've been going for the designated hour now. Somebody raised about trees, Jim. I just wonder for a future agenda item if we could actually have Dave Sefton to come and talk to us about trees and tree issues in the district. A lot of people know about ash dieback and the impact that it's had, and it's had a huge impact on the tree population in New Romney. We're now seeing a number of other diseases coming through. There's one that's affecting horse chestnuts particularly, and there's another one that's affecting some other trees. I forgot what they were now. But it's costing us a fortune in tree maintenance in New Romney at the moment, and it can't just be us. So I don't know if there are things locally that are sort of conspiring against us, but it's ever so hard to find out what we can do to prevent some of these things from transmitting. And I know ash dieback was a really awful thing, but again, there are these other ones in the wings. And Jim, you'll know from when we were at Walmer last year, where they were talking about problems with chestnut trees there that we're seeing in New Romney now as well. So I just wonder whether Dave Sefton could actually come and talk to this meeting and just brief other people about tree-related issues and what we could probably do as preventative measures with some of those things that are more prevalent in the district. That's all. Thank you.
And I mean, Dave Sefton is, if Dave Sefton starts talking, start listening, because flipping, if there's someone who knows what he's on about, it's Dave Sefton. So yeah, it'd be great if you want any encyclopedic knowledge of trees. So not the greatest communicator, I have to say, let's be warned, but he has got an encyclopedic knowledge of trees. So that would be brilliant if we could organise that.
Sure, we can, can't we?
Why not?
Right, Frank, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, a couple of questions. Yes, agree with what Paul's just said about the trees. I mean, it's prevalent throughout the district, isn't it? There's ash trees died all over the place. Although it's funny how some of them seem to be doing quite well, and others, particularly the newer planted ones around here anyway, are the ones that are dying out. The very old ones seem to be surviving. Going on to what Anne said, no doubt the nominations bit, Mike Gore will bring that to the working group, because it's one of the things that we would be interested in doing. Obviously, is a bit of the quid pro quo, as they say. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm looking. I can't see any other hands up. Does anybody else want to speak? Perhaps he hasn't spoken. Is there any other questions for Jim? Anything you'd like Jim to do a turn for us on?
A joke?
Just to say thank you.
The other thing is to say for the next meeting, we normally talk about the district budget at this one. At some stage, we ought to be talking about the district budget.
I can give you a quick update if you want, Frank.
Go on then. Well, up to the chairman.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Sorry, Mike. Sorry.
That's all right. No.
Sorry about that. Sorry. So you'll recall, Frank, that we had a £4.5 million deficit that we were tackling, and an incredible amount of hard work by officers and members. And Mike and Paul will remember the Susan Priest talking to me about this thing called the Star Chamber, and I was thinking, I wonder what that is. It sounds interesting, but believe me, it's not a very nice thing at all to sit through. And so there are at the moment, and this isn't finalised, but there are 15 people who have taken voluntary redundancy. And we think the compulsory redundancies will probably be 7, 8 or 9. So we're thinking, and this is all very provisional still, we're thinking that it's probably going to be 22, 23, 24 people that will be no longer with us. There's been lots of cuts in terms of all sorts of things. The only things that got ring-fenced were the customer-facing services. So anybody phoning or emailing the council would see no difference. But the bottom line to all of that is that we will be reporting a balanced budget, Frank. So we will be, we have emptied the cupboard, completely, but we will be reporting a balanced budget. So we are cock-a-hoop about that. This is the point from which we rebuild. So, but we're very pleased to say a balanced budget.
Good note to finish on. If nobody else has anything else they want to raise. Good. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you, Jim, for all the updates.
Mike.
Thanks,
Sorry
everyone,
about
for your
the
questions.
camera.
Just before you go, sorry, I'll just say that I'll speak to Dave Sesson and Susan to see if I can get that on the agenda next.
Brilliant. Thanks,
Brilliant.
Jake.
Well done. Thanks, Jake.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Good night.
Good night,
Have a nice
everybody.
evening. Bye now.
Bye.